نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد ونعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So day 6 of our series Tazkiyah An Nafs, the conditions of the soul, the state of the soul. As we discussed the two states of the soul right before. One is nafs ammaratu bisu, second is nafsul lawama. The first nafs, the soul of a person, it incites him to do wrong things. If he is not controlling his nafs, if he is not controlling the desires, if he is not obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his nafs will be inclined towards wrong, and this person will fall into doing wrong by following these desires. The second nafs, if the person starts to control himself, right? I'm not going to do this wrong. This goes against the will of Allah. This goes against the hukum of Allah. Then he will, every believer, such a person will have his soul making him regret of what he's doing, is trying to stop him from doing wrong. And this is a self-check. A person, if he starts to feel fear in his heart when he is approaching to do some sin, he should stop. Now this state, there is another advanced stage of this nafs, a nafs which is in the most desirable state. Right? And this is the tranquil nafs, tranquil soul, which is finding peace in Allah's obedience, complete submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by training the nafs, by training the control of this nafs, our nafs, we fall into this category. May Allah make us all fall into this category. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that save yourself and your families from fire. So how do you save your families from fire? One of the explanation is that you train yourself and your family to control your nafs, to be strict on certain behaviors, to be strict on certain indulgence, over indulgence into things. This controls ourselves. This gives a control of ourselves over our nafs. Right? The nafs should not control us, the soul should not control us, the desires should not control us, but we are the ones who have to command and lead the desires and stop them when they are leading towards wrong. And when a person is in that state, conscious of Allah, remembering the punishment of Allah, remembering the rewards of Allah, he will constantly build into this habit. So he will come in a state where he will reach the state of nafs al-Mutma'innah. Right? There will be times when he will fall short and he will come back again. There will be times when his soul will again want to have desire, but he will rein it again and come back into that state. So in this constant struggle till we die, this is a constant struggle till we die. It's not a state that you reach and now it will remain in that way and you relax. No, the nafs is dynamic, right? So we have to keep it in the higher level of state all the time. So the most desirable state of the soul is nafs al-Mutma'innah, is one of tranquility and peace found in the obedience of Allah. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Fajr, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'innah, irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatam mardiyah. O tranquil soul, come back to your Lord, well pleased and well pleasing. So the angels will announce to this person about this good news that Allah is pleased with him. Why? Why? That because this man, this woman, this person was pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In anything that was happening to him, he was pleased with Allah's decree. He was satisfied. He was not complaining. He was not going into the state of kufr. Of course, we make dua, do Allah ease our affairs. Imagine Yaqub alayhi salam. Till he was so old and his family was still giving him hard time. What did he say? He said, I only complain to Allah about my problems. And this complaint is not about dissatisfaction. This complaint is about the removal of sadness from the heart. This complaint is that I not about kufr. That why? It's not about questioning Allah's decree. So when we have difficult times, we don't question why. We just ask Allah, oh Allah, remove it from us. Remove it from us. And we have good hopes from Allah. Till the end, Yaqub alayhi salam had good hopes from Allah, and Allah united him with his children. So having good hopes in Allah and having good hopes in Allah, not for just the dunya, that Allah will reward me because of my patience in the akhirah. And then this, what, in the day of judgment, there will be, the hell will be brought near that day. On that day, man will remember, Allah mentions this in the same surah before these ayat, that he will remember when the hell will be brought. It is said that it will be brought on near that day, brought on near that day, and it will have 70,000 leashes, and each leash will have 70,000 angels pulling it. So when we will see this hell on that day, we all will see. Imagine yourself standing and seeing the hell in front of you. On that day, the man will remember, يَوْمَئِذٍ يَتَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ وَأَنَّى لَهُ الذِّكْرَى. And he will remember his deeds, what he did in his past and his recent times. And how will that remembrance avail him? How will that remembrance avail him? Nothing can help us on that day except what we are going to do now. So this is the time of doing good deeds and doing it for the sake of Allah. And good deeds primarily means staying away from sins, purifying our souls from sins, our actions from sins. Right? So a disobedient person will be sorry of his acts, and even the obedient person will wish that he had done more good deeds when he will see this day, the horrors of the hellfire. And on that day, none will punish as Allah will punish. Subhanallah. When you see that people chain in fetters and bind, and this binding, no one can get away from the binding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when a people will be observing this, subhanallah, the al-Mutma'innah, the people who are pleased with the decree of Allah, they were ready to bear every decree of Allah patiently for his rewards, hoping the rewards from Allah, then it will be announced to them. It will be announced to them, O tranquil soul, come back to your Lord. And Allah has prepared the rewards for such a soul, and these rewards are preserved in paradise. So we need to focus on the rewards through fasting. What do we learn? Control, right? And this control is not simply for food, not simply for eating, not only just backbiting, doing sins of the sin. This control is also the control of the heart, controlling the useless desires of the heart. This world is, we need to live in this world like a traveler, right? Just with the minimal means, whatever are necessary. Of course, whatever are necessary. We need certain amount of wealth, we need certain amount of money, means to have a good house, to have education, to earn our living in this dunya. But while we are living in this dunya and availing these benefits, we don't get attached to this dunya so much that we fall into love with this dunya so much that we disregard the religion of Allah, that we disregard the hukum of Allah, the laws of Allah, the haram and the halal. So when we reach this stage of tranquility and peace, this soul, which finds inner peace and contentment through its connection with Allah and abiding by the truth. And this tranquility comes from knowing Allah, loving Him, trusting Him, and submitting to His will. Tranquility is achieved through striving against one's desire, being patient, and aligning oneself with divine guidance. And as a result, such a person frees himself from the anxieties and desires of the material world and finds true satisfaction in Allah's remembrance and obedience. This slave of Allah is pleased and contented with the degree of Allah and bears patiently with the trials of this world. And then he receives the good news, being pleased, Allah being pleased with him, and the reward of Jannah. So the lesson of today's session is day 6, that we should be contented with the decree of Allah. We should be pleased with Allah. We should stay away from sins for the fear of Allah's punishment, and do more and more, strive to do more and more and more good, to be hoping the best rewards from Allah, knowing that love of Allah comes in the obedience of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The pleasure of Allah comes in the obedience of the Quran and the Sunnah. And may Allah make us one of those to whom this good news will be given at the time of death and the day of judgment. And may Allah make us one of those who will enter Jannah. Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la. Ameen.